The moment those words left her mouth, I felt something inside me turn to stone. We'd been married for 5 years, and for the last 6 months, our bedroom had become increasingly cold. That night, after another rejected advance, I finally confronted her. "What's really going on here?" I asked calmly, sitting at the edge of our bed. That's when she dropped the bomb that would change everything. "I've been pretending," she said with this cold, distant look in her eyes. "Every time we've been intimate for years. And I'm tired of it." I kept my face neutral despite feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. She continued, growing more animated as she spoke. "I'd rather be homeless than keep pretending in bed with you," she spat out. "At least then I'd be honest about how I feel." Those words echoed in our bedroom. 5 years of marriage, and this was how she really felt. The disrespect was palpable, but instead of lashing out or begging for explanation, I simply nodded. "That's quite a statement," I replied, my voice steady. "Thank you for your honesty." The confusion on her face was evident. She'd expected tears, anger, something to make her feel powerful in her cruelty. Instead, I stood up, grabbed my pillow, and headed to the guest room without another word. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was crying or devastated, but because my mind was calculating. This wasn't just about physical intimacy. This was about respect, honesty, and 5 years of what was apparently a charade. The next morning, I maintained a composed demeanor while she watched me cautiously. I went to work as usual, spoke normally, but inside, gears were turning. If she'd rather be homeless than intimate with me, perhaps I should take her words at face value. Over the next few days, I noticed changes in her behavior. She was checking her phone more frequently, smiling at messages. When I entered a room, the screen would go dark immediately. Late nights at the office became more common, with vague explanations about deadlines and projects. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I began observing patterns. Thursday night drinks with colleagues. Unexplained charges on our joint credit card at hotels across town. All while maintaining this facade of a wife who was simply not interested in physical affection anymore. One evening, when she thought I was asleep, I heard her on the phone in our bathroom, speaking in hushed tones and laughing in a way she hadn't laughed with me in months. That was the final confirmation I needed. I didn't feel heartbreak. Instead, I felt clarity. This wasn't about my inadequacy. This was about her dishonesty. And if she truly preferred homelessness to intimacy with me, I was prepared to accommodate that preference. The next day, I withdrew half our savings and consulted a lawyer. I documented everything: the late nights, the hotel charges, the phone calls. Not because I was obsessed, but because I was strategic. When the time came to act, I would be prepared. People think that strength means confrontation. Sometimes, true strength is silence while you prepare. And prepare I did, because if she wanted homelessness over pretending with me, I was about to make that fantasy a reality. With my emotions under strict control, I began the next phase of my plan. While she slept, I took her phone. She'd grown careless, leaving it unlocked on the nightstand. What I found confirmed everything. Messages between her and a coworker dating back months. Explicit conversations. Photos that made my stomach turn. Plans for their next rendezvous. Mocking comments about me. About how she had to endure being with me. How she told him she'd rather be homeless than keep pretending with me. I took screenshots of everything, sending them to my own phone before carefully placing hers back. She never stirred. The irony wasn't lost on me. She slept peacefully beside the man she was betraying. The next morning, I acted normal, even making her favorite breakfast. She seemed confused by my pleasant demeanor, probably expecting me to still be reeling from her declaration days earlier. Instead, I kissed her forehead and told her to have a good day at work. "You seem different," she said suspiciously. "Just accepted some truths about our situation," I replied with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. After she left, I called in sick to work. I had more important business to handle. First stop was our bank, where I opened a separate account and transferred exactly half of our savings. Not a penny more. I wasn't trying to steal, just protect what was mine. Next was a meeting with the best divorce attorney in the city. I laid out everything: the confession, the evidence of her affair, the joint assets. The attorney seemed impressed by my methodical approach. "Most clients come in emotional, unable to think clearly," he noted. "I'm past emotions," I replied. "I'm interested in solutions." We developed a strategy that was fair but protected my interests. I didn't want revenge, I wanted respect. And sometimes, respect comes from consequences. That evening, I installed cameras in our common areas, legally, within my rights as a homeowner. Not in private spaces, just in areas where visitors might enter. Then I did something that might seem strange. I started shopping online. For a tent, a sleeping bag, a fold-up chair, a portable cook stove, a cardboard box large enough for a person to sit in, all delivered to my office, not our home. Throughout this time, her behavior grew more obvious. She'd come home smelling of unfamiliar cologne, with excuses about coworkers hugging her goodbye. Her lies became bolder, as if she believed I was too weak to question them. Working late again tonight, she'd say while dressed in an outfit she'd never wear to her corporate job. No problem, I'd reply, not looking up from my book. Take your time. The confusion on her face was palpable. She'd expected begging, arguments, anything that would justify her betrayal in her mind. My calm acceptance was throwing her off balance. One night, she tested me further. I might need to go on a business trip next weekend. Just for 2 days. I knew there was no business trip. Her company had no events scheduled. I checked. That's fine, I replied. Actually, I'll be away that Friday myself. Company event. Her eyes lit up at this news. I could practically see the wheels turning in her head. An empty house for her and her lover. Really? That's unfortunate timing, she said, failing to hide her excitement. These things happen, I responded, turning back to my laptop where I was finalizing the last details of my plan. That weekend would be her grand finale, though she didn't know it yet. She thought she was orchestrating a romantic rendezvous. In reality, she was walking straight into the consequence of her own callous words. Because if she truly preferred homelessness to pretending with me, I was about to grant her wish in the most spectacular way possible. With the pieces of my plan coming together, I maintained my facade of obliviousness. In public, we were still the perfect couple, at dinner parties, family gatherings, corporate events. But the truth lurked beneath the surface, known only to me. I used this time to secure my position further. Meeting with financial advisors, I protected my assets without raising suspicion. Our house was in both our names, but my business, a consulting firm I'd built from nothing, remained solely mine. I made sure it would stay that way. One evening, while we were hosting friends, I overheard her in the kitchen with her closest friend. "He's just so boring," she whispered, not realizing I was around the corner. "Like a robot in bed. It's embarrassing." Her friend giggled. "So what about the coworker situation? Still hot and heavy?" "Better than ever," she replied smugly. "He knows what he's doing, unlike my husband. Next weekend will be amazing, the house to ourselves." I stepped away silently, adding this conversation to my mental evidence file. The disrespect wasn't just behind my back. She was publicly humiliating me to our social circle. That night, after everyone left, she was particularly cold, claiming a headache when I approached her. I simply nodded and went to the guest room without argument. Her confidence in her control over me was growing, exactly as I needed it to. The delivery arrived at my office the next day. All the camping supplies, the large cardboard box, and other items I'd ordered. My assistant raised an eyebrow but asked no questions as I stored everything in my private office. "Taking up camping?" he finally ventured. "Something like that," I replied. "A special project." I spent my lunch breaks that week scouting locations. Our house had a perfectly manicured front lawn, the pride of the neighborhood. It would make an excellent stage for what I had planned. That Thursday, I executed the financial aspects of my strategy. I paid off my car completely. I cleared my personal credit cards. I made sure all my business accounts were separated from our joint finances. Nothing illegal or unfair, just protective measures ensuring that whatever storm came, I would remain standing. The lawyer called with updates on the divorce paperwork. Everything was in order, ready to be filed after the weekend. He cautioned me about my plans for the cardboard suite revelation. "It's unconventional," he admitted. "But legally, you're within your rights. Just keep the evidence of the affair handy." Friday morning arrived, the day she thought I'd be leaving for my fake company event. I made a show of packing an overnight bag, kissing her goodbye, and pulling out of the driveway in my car. Instead of heading to the highway, I circled back and parked several blocks away, returning to the house through our rarely used side gate. From the guest room window, I had a perfect view of our driveway. I waited, patient as a hunter, as the hours passed. At exactly 3 p.m., I began setting up on our front lawn. The tent went up first, a small, one-person affair. Next came the sleeping bag, the fold-up chair, and several cardboard boxes arranged into a makeshift shelter. I placed bottles of water, some non-perishable food, and basic toiletries inside. The final touch was a large sign, professionally printed, staked into our lawn. Homeless by choice. She'd rather be homeless than pretend in bed. By 5 p.m., everything was in place. Neighbors had begun to notice, some taking photos, others whispering behind their hands. I sat calmly in the lawn chair, waiting. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from curious friends who'd seen social media posts about the strange setup. I answered none of them. At 5:45 p.m., a car I didn't recognize turned onto our street and slowed down in front of our house. Through the windshield, I could see her face transition from confusion to horror as she realized what was happening, and who was sitting in that lawn chair, smiling pleasantly as their perfect affair weekend crumbled before it began. The car stopped abruptly in the middle of the street. She shot out of the passenger side, her face contorted with rage and embarrassment. The man driving, her coworker, her lover, remained frozen behind the wheel, clearly processing the scene unfolding before him. "What the hell are you doing?" she hissed, trying to keep her voice down despite her fury. Neighbors were watching from windows and porches now, drawn by the spectacle. I remained seated, relaxed posture, one leg crossed over the other. "Just honoring your wishes," I replied calmly. "You said, and I quote, 'I'd rather be homeless than pretend in bed with you. So I've arranged your preferred accommodations.'" Her lover finally emerged from the car, hanging back uncertainly. He was younger than me, dressed in an expensive suit that suddenly looked ridiculous in this suburban tableau of public humiliation. "Is this some kind of joke?" she demanded, stepping closer but still maintaining distance from the cardboard suite I'd arranged. "Not at all," I replied, standing up. I gestured toward the setup. "I took your statement very seriously. Here's your homeless setup, complete with survival necessities." Her lover approached cautiously. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking between us. I turned to him with a pleasant smile. "You must be the coworker. I'm the husband she's been complaining about, the one she'd rather be homeless than intimate with." I extended my hand as if this were a normal business meeting. "Pleasure to finally meet you." He didn't take my hand. Instead, his eyes darted to the sign, then to her, realization dawning on his face. "You said you were getting separated," he said to her, backing away. "You said your husband knew and was fine with it." She lied. I informed him cheerfully, just like she lied to me for months. Actually, years according to her recent confession. By now, several neighbors had gathered on the sidewalk, phones recording the drama. She noticed them too, her face cycling through emotions, rage, humiliation, panic. "Get inside," she hissed at me. "We need to talk about this privately." "No," I replied simply, firmly. "We're past private talks. You've discussed our intimate life with your friends, your lover, probably your coworkers. You've mocked me behind my back. Privacy is off the table." Her lover was already retreating to his car. "I don't need this drama," he muttered. "This is insane." "Wait," she called after him, desperation creeping into her voice. "He's just trying to embarrass me. This isn't what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like, and we all knew it. The car door slammed, and her escape plan drove away, leaving her alone to face the consequences of her actions. She turned back to me, switching tactics instantly. Tears formed in her eyes, manufactured ones that I'd seen before during arguments when logic wasn't on her side. "Please," she whispered, stepping closer. "Let's just go inside and talk about this like adults." "I am being an adult," I replied, unmoved by the performance. "I'm communicating clearly, just as you did when you told me you'd rather be homeless. Here's your cardboard suite. And here," I held up a folder, "are the divorce papers. Already filled out, just need your signature." The tears vanished instantly, replaced by cold fury. "You think you can humiliate me like this and get away with it?" I gestured around at the neighbors, the phones recording, the evidence accumulating in real time. "I think I already have. But more importantly, you humiliated yourself. I'm just providing the audience you seemed to want when you discussed our intimate life with others." She lunged forward suddenly, grabbing at the folder in my hand. I sidestepped easily, maintaining control of the documents. "Those papers represent your freedom," I reminded her. "Freedom from pretending with me, which you found so distasteful. Isn't that what you wanted? Her voice dropped to a threatening whisper. I'll ruin you. I'll take everything in the divorce. At this, I finally laughed, a genuine laugh that surprised even me. With what leverage? The evidence of your affair is already with my lawyer. The verbal abuse is being recorded right now by our neighbors. And that cardboard suite? It's a physical manifestation of your own words. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes as she realized the corner she'd backed herself into. The confident manipulator was gone, replaced by someone seeing consequences materialize in real time. She stood there, trapped in a prison of her own making, as reality crashed down around her. The neighbors had formed a semicircle, their whispers creating a backdrop to our confrontation. Someone had called mutual friends who were now arriving, adding to the audience. You planned this, she accused, her voice shaking with impotent rage. You set me up. I planned a response. I corrected. You set yourself up the moment you decided disrespect and infidelity were acceptable. The moment you said those words to me. One of our friends approached tentatively. What's happening here? Before I could answer, she jumped in. He's lost his mind. He's trying to throw me out, humiliate me. Actually, I interrupted calmly, pulling out my phone. I played the recording of her original statement, her voice, clear as day, saying she'd rather be homeless than pretend in bed with me. Then I swiped to show screenshots of her text conversations with her lover, careful to only display the tamer messages given our audience. I'm simply honoring her stated preference, I explained. And yes, providing some consequences for the affair she's been having. Our friend's eyes widened as understanding dawned. She backed away from my wife, moving to stand near me instead, a symbolic shifting of allegiances that wasn't lost on anyone present. This is illegal, my wife suddenly shouted. You can't kick me out of my own house. I'm not kicking you out, I clarified. The house is equally yours. You're welcome to go inside. But your lover just left, and I've moved my things to a new apartment. This, I gestured to the cardboard setup, is simply a visual representation of your own words and choices. Her face contorted with fury as she realized I was always one step ahead. You've been planning this for how long? Spying on me. Going through my phone. Long enough to know the truth, I replied. Long enough to protect myself from further disrespect. She stormed toward the house, then paused dramatically at the door, turning to address our growing audience. He wasn't man enough to satisfy me. That's what this is really about. He's just insecure. Instead of anger, I felt pity. This desperate attempt to salvage her ego by attacking my masculinity showed just how little she understood about true strength. A real man knows his worth. I responded, loud enough for everyone to hear. He doesn't beg for respect from someone incapable of giving it. He doesn't stay where he's not valued. She slammed the door behind her, but the damage to her reputation was done. Neighbors and friends clustered around me, offering support, asking questions. I answered calmly, without embellishment or malice. The truth needed no exaggeration. One elderly neighbor who'd lived beside us for years patted my shoulder. Never liked her much, she confided. Always talking down to you when you couldn't hear. Inside the house, lights flicked on and off as my wife moved from room to room, likely discovering the other changes I'd made. The master bedroom emptied of my possessions. The safe cleared of important documents. The evidence of my meticulous exit strategy. My phone buzzed with a text from her. You're pathetic. Think you've won. I'll destroy you in court. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned to our assembled friends and neighbors. Thank you all for your concern. I'd appreciate privacy now as I handle the next steps. As the crowd dispersed, promising support and discretion, though I knew this would be neighborhood legend by morning, I calmly began dismantling the cardboard suite. Its purpose had been served. The message delivered. My lawyer called, having received updates from me throughout the confrontation. That was unorthodox, he admitted, but effective. The evidence is overwhelming now. We'll file first thing Monday. From inside the house came the sound of breaking glass, her tantrum continuing. I didn't react. Property could be replaced. Dignity, once surrendered, was harder to recover. And I had maintained mine throughout this ordeal. As night fell, I drove to my new apartment, leased weeks ago in preparation. The decision to leave the house to her temporarily was strategic, not generous. Security cameras would document her behavior in my absence, potentially strengthening my position further. That night, In a sparse but peaceful space that was entirely mine, I slept better than I had in months. No pretense, no lies, no walking on eggshells, just the quiet satisfaction of having stood my ground when it mattered most. The aftermath unfolded precisely as I had anticipated. Monday morning, my lawyer filed the divorce papers. By noon, her lawyer contacted mine, already on the defensive after seeing the evidence we had compiled. The neighborhood had become a hotbed of gossip, with the story of the cardboard suite spreading rapidly. She tried everything to regain control. First came the tearful phone calls, claiming she'd made a terrible mistake. When those went unanswered, threatening messages followed, promising to fight for every penny. Those were documented and added to our file. Finally, she attempted to poison our social circle with twisted versions of events. But the truth had too many witnesses now. Friends who had seen the evidence firsthand. Neighbors who had watched the confrontation. Even her lover, who apparently wanted nothing more to do with her after seeing the reality of her character. 2 weeks after the cardboard suite incident, we had our first court appearance. She arrived dressed immaculately, playing the role of the wronged wife. I wore a simple but well-tailored suit, carried myself with dignity, and let the evidence speak for itself. Her lawyer attempted to paint me as controlling, vindictive, emotionally abusive for the public display. My lawyer calmly presented the recordings, the text messages, the witness statements, and finally, her own damning words about preferring homelessness to intimacy with me. The judge's expression remained neutral throughout, but when he spoke, his words cut through her fabricated narrative. The evidence suggests a pattern of infidelity and emotional cruelty on the part of the wife, not the husband. Outside the courthouse, she tried one last power play, approaching me with false contrition. "This has gotten out of hand," she said, her voice honeyed with fake remorse. "We could still work this out. I made a mistake, but you're making it worse with all this legal nonsense." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw nothing of the woman I had once loved. In her place stood someone concerned only with her own comfort and image. "The only mistake was thinking you valued our marriage," I replied. "Everything else was just you showing me who you truly are. And for that, I should thank you." Her mask slipped thin, revealing the anger beneath. "You'll regret this. No woman will want you after what you've done." I smiled genuinely. I'd rather be alone than with someone who makes me feel alone when I'm with them. That was our last personal conversation. From then on, everything went through lawyers. The divorce proceeded faster than most, facilitated by the overwhelming evidence and her increasingly erratic behavior. She lost support from mutual friends as her lies unraveled. Her lover had moved on to easier targets. Even her family began keeping their distance after learning the full story. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. The house was sold, assets divided fairly. I kept my business, she kept her career. A clean break, all things considered. Word reached me that she had moved to another state, starting over where her reputation hadn't preceded her. I wished her well silently, not out of lingering affection, but because harboring bitterness would only bind me to the past. As for me, the cardboard suite husband became something of a local legend, not as a joke, but as an example of standing up for oneself with dignity. Men in similar situations would occasionally reach out for advice, and I always gave the same counsel. Value yourself enough to walk away from disrespect. 6 months after the divorce, I met someone new. She was different, direct, honest, and genuinely kind. When I eventually shared my story, her response told me everything I needed to know. She had a good man and didn't recognize it. That's her loss, not yours. We took things slowly, building a foundation of mutual respect before anything else. And when intimacy eventually developed between us, there was no pretending, only authentic connection. The experience had transformed me, not into someone bitter or distrustful, but into a man who knew his worth, who could recognize authenticity when he saw it, and who would never again tolerate disrespect disguised as love. That night, when she said she'd rather be homeless than pretend with me, had seemed like the end of something. In reality, it was the beginning of reclaiming my dignity, my self-respect, and ultimately, my capacity for genuine happiness. Sometimes the most powerful response to cruelty isn't matching it with more cruelty. It's showing precisely what consequences look like when delivered with calm purpose and unwavering resolve.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.